Good morning to you. It's ODark30 officially. I'm in my nightshirt still. Looks like I'm wearing the same things from yesterday. Good morning. Just wanted to share something with you that I thought was interesting and important. Um, when I heard that Charlie Kirk had died, specifically that he had been shot, it kind of hit me like it didn't, like a lot of things haven't hit me. I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Can't believe this happened, but I knew that he had a target on him because people didn't like what he said. Whether you agree or disagree is fine, but he had a target. And I think that it's just interesting in the culture and the times that we live that people celebrated his death, which I find interesting in this way. There's a certain power couple, we'll call them, political in nature. I think their names are Bill and Hillary. And I was thinking to myself how awful it is that people are celebrating legitimately Charlie Kirk's death. And I thought, well, wait a second. Prior to this, if Bill and Hillary, just names I made up, if they were to suffer their untimely demise, it would be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. God's doing his work. But something really struck me about that is the fact that people are celebrating that Charlie Kirk's dead. Whether you believe in what he stands for, not immaterial. I like a lot of the things he had to say. As a matter of fact, I just was watching a great interview with him and Russell Brand. I thought was very interesting. But it got me thinking that, wait a second, I am that hypocrite. Because if I would take any measure of satisfaction in their death, Bill and Hillary, completely made up, then I am the same. I am that hypocrite. And I think the message is this, that God loves each and every one of us as we are, not as perfect, sinless beings, but he loves us where we are. And that right there is the nutshell. The nutshell is that if it's somebody that we feel is opposed to us or in reality espouses much different ideologies than our own, then in any way we take any measure of satisfaction in that, we are the same person. And it really just struck me, and it got me to thinking that, wait a second, Jesus on the cross being tortured and crucified. He was being tortured. He was tortured to death. And I think that's lost on a lot of people, but he was actually tortured to death. It wasn't just like he was up there and he died and, okay, fine. No, he was tortured to death. And not only was he tortured, he was humiliated. They spat on him and they insulted him. So all the stuff that people are doing for in Charlie Kirk, and it means nothing. Jesus says to forgive people, that we need to forgive. Why? Because he is the author of forgiveness. He's told us to forgive. And why? Why is that? It's because it sets us free. And when Erica Kirk mentioned at the memorial service that she forgave that young man, it really struck me. It struck me because she didn't use any descriptors. She didn't say that evil person, this horrible, awful person. She said, I forgive that young man. That's everything right there. Why? Because that's setting her free. Why? Because she's doing what she's commanded to do. Why? It's for our benefit. And for a long time, in a lot of my life, I've carried a lot of unforgiveness and anger. But again, it's the descriptor that tells you the intent of the heart. prior to this, I would have used any number of descriptors to, say, well, that's good. They deserved it. That fill in the blank, whatever you want to say, I would do that. That's me. But the reality is that if we're carrying unforgiveness in our lives, it's destructive. It's a cancer. And the Lord knows this. And that's why he said, you need to forgive and you need to be like me. And I find that to be the most powerful of this message of Charlie Kirk, his life, his legacy. But the reality is the work of God. He had his own unique talents. He was able to go in and speak to people, and in a way that wasn't nobody's without fault. So regardless that he didn't speak to everybody perfectly, I think it was his attempt to treat people decently and yet at the same time disagree with them. So pretty difficult to do all of those things. And I will say he did a great job. So I want to move on to the next topic that I alluded to yesterday, which is the Bible will absolutely change your life. Absolutely. 100%. And for the better. And I'll tell you again, people think that belief is an intellectual exercise. It's an intellectual exercise. It's not. It's physical. It's doing. It's being. Because belief is me just sitting here saying, oh, yeah, sure, I believe in gravity. Yeah, it's here. Okay. Well, yeah, it's here. You can see it. And the evidence of God is everywhere. You can see it. All you have to do is look. It's not difficult. He said that he made it simple. It's been understood. It is understood. It's written on our hearts. But you have to get to your heart to find that out. You have to strip away, excuse me, you have to strip away the layers to get to your heart. But it's there. And I will tell you that prior to Hong Kong Fluey, before, in essence, our whole world was upended, 2020. And, oh wow, it was an amazing time in a lot of ways. But there was a lot of fear, and we gave into that ourselves. But prior to that, God was slowly stripping away things in my life. He was stripping them away, things that I did that I enjoyed. Every day started to become meaningless. Meaningless. I was like, well, yeah, I always used to enjoy doing this. Insert said behavior, activity, action. Oh, I really like this. This makes me feel really good. And it started to get stripped away, and I was like, well, this doesn't work. There's nothing here. There's nothing in this. I had a good job. We lived in a very nice house. For us, we're just normal working people. And we were newly married. But man, I felt so empty. I felt so empty. There was nothing. We had the things the society says we should have. You should be successful. You should have money. You should have possessions. And we had these things, and I was miserable. And not because of anybody in my life, but because God wasn't in my life. And it was a very difficult time. And through this process is how we ended up here on our homestead. Through that whole process. But it was interesting is that, again, God just started stripping away the things where they didn't do it. I felt empty. I felt just that there was nothing there. And it was through that I basically surrendered my life and said, okay, God, I know your will. we started watching Jack Hibbs, and he was talking about the Bible, which we were both familiar with, Laura and I. But he was talking about the Bible, and it was a couple of years later. I think 2022 really is when it started for me that I had quit drinking in 2020 for the most part. A few isolated events, but I had quit. And the point is that I still was trying to navigate, my life. What does it look like? And yeah, so I was navigating that, but still I started to think about, well, what is belief? Yes, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe he rose from the dead. I believe that what he says in the Bible is true, plain and simple. So disagree, agree, great. But for me, I believe that to be true. And I see the evidence everywhere. Nature, all you have to do is look and see that there is a creator. It's pretty obvious. Road signs, for example, don't smelt aluminum, make the perfect rail, put the actual information on the sign, and pop up on the side of the road as you drive along. And you say, oh, that's stupid. How could that happen? Well, yeah, how could precisely made human beings just happen? Yeah, it doesn't. And there's lots of clues if you choose to believe them, but I digress. So with that being said, belief, what is belief? And I started thinking about that. Well, if I'm a believer in Jesus, if I'm a believer that he did these great things for me, then what am I doing? Well, I'm not reading my Bible. I'm not really doing a whole lot of anything except, quote unquote, being good. I mean, I'm living my life and, trying to do the best I can. And so it was there that I started to hear about belief and what is belief for me. I thought, well, if I'm not trying to read my Bible, if I'm not trying to understand what God's word is, then what am I doing? Where is that? Where is that belief? And so I started doing that. When I had my log truck, I started to put on the Holy Bible app, and it'll read to you. And it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I went through all the Old Testament, all the New Testament. I'd listen to that for hours and hours a day. And I started to hear different things. I started to hear the word being spoken. And I started to get meaning and understanding that I'd never seen before. I never experienced before. But just by listening, you could hear the spoken word. You could hear nuance that simply reading doesn't give you. So I started to experience this, and it started to become alive to me. And a lot of this is in May of, trying to keep all my years straight here, May of 24. Yeah, May of 24, I think it was, that I really started listening. And anyway, it started really coming alive to me, and I could hear the words, and I was like, oh, wow, I never heard that. And it just started to become fascinating. And then we had also got the one-year Bibles, which is Old Testament, New Testament, Psalms, and Proverbs. And it's absolutely amazing because every day you're getting something and it's different. Right now, Ephesians is absolutely amazing, and I want to get back to that. But Romans, I feel, get the Holy Bible app. It's free, and you can listen. Start listening when you're in your car, and you have some time. Start listening to it. I promise it'll come alive to you, and you'll start to understand. And God will work in you and in that right where you are. You don't need to be some perfect person, because there are none, and the one that was crucified. So I don't think you want to be that either. But right where you're at, God will meet you. He's faithful. He loves you. He wants you. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever should believe in him should not perish, but will have everlasting life. John 3:16, most people know that. But John 3:17, and I'm paraphrasing, I didn't come into the world to condemn it, but I came to save it. Everybody speaks about how Christianity is intolerance and hate, and we hate people, and it's not true. We're just like any other people when we don't understand anger, etc. But he came in to save the world, and that's you, that's me, that's everybody. You're going to live eternally, period. Are you going to rise to life, or are you going to be moved and sentenced to death? And death, honestly, is what we deserve as sinners. We're all sinners, we're all hypocrites. But Jesus came to give us life, and it's a narrow road. You have to choose it, the narrow road. The narrow road is following Jesus. To follow Jesus, you have to do what Jesus did. That's it, plain and simple. You have to do what he did. He calls us to love people. He calls us to forgive people. He calls us to be generous. All of these things. But he's going to speak to you right where you are in your life right now, today. You just have to follow. You just have to be open, actually. You don't have to follow, because he will set. He set that appointment for you to choose him, to choose life. Yesterday I talked about, I've been thinking about this a lot, because eternity, well, that's a big number, right? We're all going to either rise to death, or we're going to be sentenced to death. Rise to life. And eternity, and we think our life here on earth is so long. Oh, my mother's 86 years old. Well, she's lived a good life, a good long life, right? But 86 years in the scope of time, Paul says our life is but a vapor. But I would add to what Paul's saying, that our life is not even one molecule in a drop of rain, which there's 1.676 trillion molecules, allegedly according to Google, in one drop of rain. Eternity is bigger. And you say, well, of course it's bigger, it doesn't end, right? Well, true. But eternity is our drop of rain, our life, the span of our life, one drop of rain. All the raindrops that have all ever fallen on the earth. And our life isn't even that long. It's not one molecule of all the drops that have ever fallen on the earth. Because we are eternal beings, because we were created in God's image, his likeness. Choose life. Choose life, that you may live. Jesus said, I've come to give you life. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Keep your focus, keep your vision out on Jesus, and he will take care of you. So let's get after it. Let's do it. Life is here. It's for us. Let's choose. Let's choose life. And choosing life means choosing life on this earth. And not to give you trillions of dollars, as you've heard some people say, the prosperity perverts of the world. Follow Jesus, and you'll have trillions of dollars. Just give it to me first, and you'll get there. So that's not the gospel. But friends, I appreciate it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel. We'll keep making content like this for you. And let's walk in this journey together. God loves you. Let's do it. Have a good day.